Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihadah wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma 'allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilma warzuqna fahman nabiyyin wa hifdhal mursalin. اللهم افتح إلينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الكرام ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم بسم الله. So most likely we'll be able to finish the book today. There's only 2 sections remaining and then the conclusion that he's going to give. But these are interesting sections because now he's giving a summation of everything that we have looked at so far. So what he's going to explain here, he's going to talk about the body a little bit, not in terms of its compositions and all that. He's going to talk about the knowledge of it. Knowledge of the body, knowledge of the soul, knowledge of the heart. What he talked about in terms of knowing yourself and your heart, he's going to explain and say, why should you do this? Why should you pursue this knowledge? What's the benefit of you knowing all these things? And so he says, وَهُوَ عِلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. It is a great knowledge. It is an immense knowledge. وَالْخَلْقُ غَافِلُونَ عَنْهُ. Most of creation is heedless of it. And so this is the state of a lot of people today. They are completely heedless of the knowledge of the self, of the heart, of consciousness, of even the body, and the function that the body is supposed to serve. They think they know, but they don't really know the function of the body. To them, the body serves the purpose of satisfaction. The body serves the purpose of sensory satisfaction. To them, the body is just something that, if you work out and maintain it well, you might live longer. That's their understanding of what this body is meant for. Surah Ar-Rum, ayah number 7. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. They know the outward of this world, of the life of this world. They know the outward aspect of the life of this world. وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. As for the akhirah, they are completely heedless about it. They don't even bother to find out. So even what we get from our modern academics, they know the outward form. And they know, okay, if you have these symptoms as far as your body is concerned, it could be this, it could be that, it could be the other. So take this pill and take this pill and take this, inoculation, or take this and that and the other. So they know as far as the outward world is concerned. But a lot of the issues that we develop in the physical sense don't necessarily have to do with any physical cause. And this is the issue with being stuck on a causal level, where you're always trying to find the cause to the effect only in the outward sense. A lot of the medical problems that people come up with really have nothing to do with any physical cause, unless a physical cause is openly established. Like trauma, for instance. If somebody hits you, or if you cut yourself, then the physical cause of that is established. So if the wound, it gets infected, then you know that the cause was because of that cut. If you develop a different kind of an illness from that, then you know that it could be because of that metal, because people can get, like tetanus, for instance. It's possible. Those physical causes are established, but a lot of the things that we deal with are not really physical in that aspect. A lot of it has to do with how we maintain this body in terms of nutrition and food and focus and training and all these things. How we actually maintain the body determines the well-being of the body. Because if, as Ghazali said before, the king, the heart, has to sit like a king and govern everything in the right way. If he doesn't, then the dominion is going to suffer. It's going to be destroyed. The dominion, which is the body, will be destroyed. It's going to deteriorate. It's going to get sick. Immune system is compromised. You see, a lot of issues are going to transpire if the heart is not in control, if you're not conscious of your well-being. The same case happens to the spiritual aspect of the self, of the soul. The city will be destroyed. The soul will be destroyed. So he's saying this is why this knowledge is important. You have to know the sciences behind the human being, not just in the physical form, but in the ethereal form and the spiritual form as well. وَكَذَلِكَ عِلْمُ الطِّبِّ. Likewise, knowledge of medicine. And this is a very important piece here, because what we have today, I mean, people can argue this, but I hold this as, I mean, it's more than evident if you have the eyes to see with what exactly is the industry now. It's an industry. Doctors are now technicians. They're not healers anymore. They go through their years of training to be technicians. The healthcare that we have is not medicinal healthcare. It's pharmaceutical healthcare. And we have to face that fact. This is what it's morphing into. You know, you have a headache, take a pill. This issue, take a pill. That issue, take a pill. Everything is take a pill. You know, some people consume more pills and drugs than they do food. But a lot of these things, outer manifestations, can actually be treated. And we're not talking about actual diseases. People who are suffering from disease, that's a different ballgame altogether. That requires specialized care and treatment. Just general aspects. Just understand get some basic knowledge of your being so that you can take care. So you're not reliant on somebody else who is not a Muslim, has no spiritual understanding of anything, and you put your entire trust and faith into them to help you in your well-being, when all this knowledge is there in our tradition. We have all this knowledge in our tradition. They're studying our scholars, which is really astounding. They're studying Ibn Sina's Qanun in Harvard and in John Hopkins University. They study Ibn Sina and the Qanun of medicine. We don't even know about it. Half of our population says, oh, Ibn Sina, oh, you know what? Yeah, problems with Aqidah, so we shouldn't touch him at all. We shouldn't listen to read anything he says, because he's probably a Sufi. This is the attitude that our Muslims have today. The kuffar are studying our texts. They know our texts better than we do, because the knowledge is all there. So Ghazali is saying it's important that you know these knowledges so that you can preserve yourself in this world. You can survive the harms that he talked about, that the body encounters, and the harms that the soul encounters, and the harms and the diseases of the heart. These are different sciences, and it's important that you study them, because they'll help you understand your reality, and when you're faced with circumstances in your life, you will be able to deal with them. But he says that there are some important things you need to take into consideration. And these are foundational in Aqidah. And this is something that the Western world lacks. And this is why they don't have boundaries. They don't have limits. They're going into the kind of things that they're going into because they don't have limits. So he says, فَكُلُّ مَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يَنْظَرَ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَعَجَائِبْ صَنْعِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى فِيهَا يَحْتَاجُ إِلَى مَعْرِفَةِ ثَلَاثَةِ أَشْيَاءٍ مِنَ الصِّفَاتِ الْإِلَهِيَةِ. For whosoever wants to now go into this knowledge, particularly of the self, of the human being, knowing yourself in the bodily aspect, in the spiritual aspect, if you want to go into this knowledge now and to understand the wonders of Allah's creation that He has created you with, there are three things that you need to know, three important principles from the collective attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Three important attributes. From all the other attributes, you have to know these three if you want to go into these sciences, because these will keep you within the boundaries. And another important factor here, because even as far as the Sufiya go, they also study the same knowledges. They study the same sciences. Why do they go astray? Is because they don't have a foundational guideline. So Ghazali is saying maintain that foundational guideline. And these three things are to do with Aqidah, an expansion of that into Aqidah as well, because Aqidah, the science of Aqidah, keeps you within the boundaries of transgression, breaking that and going into all these false notions that the Westerners are going into in their quest for immortality and anti-aging and cheating death and all that nonsense. So he says, Al-Ula, the first of these, أن يعرف أن خالق الشخص قادر على الكمال. The first of this, it's important that you know that the creator, in the creator of the individual, is complete in his power and his perfection. He is omnipotent. His power over perfection is complete, meaning that everything that he creates in perfection. There is no imperfection in his creation. So when you look at the human being, you don't see deficiencies in creation. This is what they see. See, they see the human being as something that is weak and is frail, and so we need to make improvements. We need to improve the genetic code to make the human being stronger, to overcome disease so that he can fight death. He can anti-age, right? So we make all these exoskeletons and biotics and all these things as improvements. They see that as improvements. But that's stupidity. And these are stupid people, completely stupid people, foolish of mankind. And those who follow them become dependents. They become users. Because now you've lost your autonomy. You've lost your independence. Allah has created you in perfection. So even those things that you think are imperfect, they're not. If a lion is stronger than you, the lion is perfect in his creation. The fact that you're not as strong as a lion has got nothing to do with your being on earth, because he's given you intellect, which is why you're surviving and the lion is not surviving in the wild. You're surviving, which is why you're able to do things that the lion cannot. The lion and the other animals and beasts and everything, they're doing what they were created to do. You have a purpose, and your purpose of being and the body that he has given you and the soul that he has given you is perfect in its creation. So you have to recognize that there is no deficiency as far as your being is concerned. And that's a very important point. So he says, وَلَيْسَ بِعَاجِزٍ. He is not incapacitated by anything. وَهُوَ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى. He is Allah, the most exalted, the most glorious. وَلَيْسَ عَمَلٌ فِي الْعَالَمِ بِأَعْجَبٍ مِنْ خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانِ مِنْ مَاءٍ مَهِينٍ. There is nothing more wondrous in the world than the creation of the human being from a vile fluid. مِنْ مَاءٍ مَهِينٍ. Because, just think about that. This complete human being and his body, his physical being, from a vile fluid, something of an impurity. It's a waste product. From that, here you have this entire process. They're still trying to figure it out. They still cannot wrap their heads around how this is possible. That from a sperm drop, that a human being could come out of that. With such complexity, they're still trying to wrap their heads around it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Insan, هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. Was there not a time from eternity when mankind was not even a thing worth mentioning? إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا. That indeed we created mankind from a sperm drop, a mixture of the sperm and the egg, and the female and the male coming together in the womb, that we may then test him for excellency and his ability to rise up. And for that we gave him his hearing and seeing. Animals have that. Animals also have hearing, they have seeing, but they don't see what we see. because they don't comprehend what we comprehend. We comprehend better. Inna hadaynahu sabila imma shakiran wa imma kafura. We are the ones who guided him. Whether he's grateful or ungrateful, Allah is still guiding you. All these kuffar out there, all these atheists out there, oh, if God is out there, let him strike me down. Subhanallah, the way they talk. Allah still lets them live. He's still merciful on them. وتصوير هذا الشخص بهذه الصورة العجيبة كما قال سبحانه وتعالى إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فإعادته بعد الموت أهوان عليه لأن الإعادة أسهل من الابتداء. The creation, the recreation of this human being, the second time around is easier than the first time around. And this is very simple logic, and it's foolproof logic. Al-Farabi, who is considered the second father of logic, Aristotle is the first father, Al-Farabi is the second, because Aristotle invented the science. So they asked him that if you were to meet Aristotle, what's the one thing that you would ask him? Al-Farabi said, I'd like to ask him about this ayah in Surah Yasin. This ayah, وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ قُلْ يُحْيِي الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٌ. I'd like to ask him about this ayah because this ayah is foolproof in logic. I don't want to go into the mechanics of it, but what do they say? What is their argument on this note? See, they come and present their own alternatives, their counter theories. Oh, no, it's like this and it's like that. No, it's evolution. It goes through a long process. Human beings, we started off as apes and we did this and now we did this. Now we're going into transhuman and then we'll go into posthuman. And then, the next step of evolution, we can do this. You see, we are in control now. We know the secret of life. We know the secret ingredients. There's that joke where the atheist scientists, they go to on the day of resurrection, they meet with God, and then they say, yeah, we got rid of you because we didn't need you anymore. We figured out how to bring things to life. And so God asks them, yeah, how do you do that? And they said, well, what you do is you take stardust and then you mix the ingredients, and then God tells them, no, wait. Get your own stardust. Why are you taking mine? I created the stardust. Go find your own. But this is their counter theories, right? This is what they're saying. They're bringing their all counter theories, but he forgets his own creation. He doesn't even know how he was created. He's saying, مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامِ, who's going to give life to these bones? وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ, and they're already disintegrated into dust. Who's going to bring them to life? And he doesn't even know his own creation. He didn't choose the ingredients for his bones. He didn't choose the muscle, the fiber. He didn't choose the structure. He had no clue that he was being created. قُلْ, say to them, يُحْيِي الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Tell them, the one who created the first time, he's the one who's going to bring it the second time around. Because, and this is the logic here, if you do something the first time, you can do it the second time, since you did it the first time. This is foolproof. The one who created everything in the first round, he will do it in the second time. And he is perfect in his creation in the first round. And so he will be perfect in his creation in the second round. الثانية معرفة علمه سبحانه وتعالى وأنه محيط بالأشياء كلها لأن هذه العجائب والغرائب لا تمكن إلا بكمال العلم. Second, know that the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses all things, because He encompasses all things. His knowledge is all encompassing. And this is what we would say is the qudra. Because the root word qadara, one of the meanings, qaddara yuqaddiru, is to estimate or to measure out. Right? So Ideally, the one who has a full measurement of something has control over it. And this is what the world is, they're trying to do. They want to measure everything out. Right? The Western world is obsessed with measurements down to the particulate level. And the more they can measure out, the more power they have, or they think they have. But what they actually have is just an illusion of power, because they only have an outward physical material measurement of things. You cannot measure qualitative things, but Allah has full measurement of that. So His knowledge encompasses the estimation and appraisal and value of everything in all its aspects, in the physical, in the metaphysical, and in other aspects that we may not even know about. And this is why He says we are closer to Him than His jugular vein. He knows more about you than you know about yourself. He has full control, and His knowledge is fully encompassing everything. لأن هذه العجائب والغرائب لا تمكن إلا بكمال العلم. Because all the wonders and the perplexities of the world is not possible unless the one who is making them has complete knowledge of them. So this, okay. How is perfection in creation distinguished from imperfection in our personalities? Perfection in creation is understood as things the way they are. Knowledge, we say, is understanding the proper placement of things. In other words, understanding a thing the way it is, not a thing the way it should be. These are two different worldviews that are projected towards reality. The Islamic worldview, following the Islamic language and the Quranic language, recognizes that everything has been created by God, and therefore everything is in its proper place, in its proper shape, form, structure, characteristic, abilities, and all that. The sacrilegious worldview, which is the kafir worldview, is in alteration of that. So they project their subjective understanding of reality. That's driven by their language. So according to them, nature is in chaos. The things are not in the right place. We need to organize everything. So we need to make the road straight. We need to make the barrier here. We need to build this here. We need to categorize everything. And this is why everything according to them is arbitrary. These are just whatever they come up with. They look back and say, oh, that was in the past, right? It was just a social construct. We can change that. God says, no, you can't change that. La mubaddila li khalqillah. If you try to change it, you're going to corrupt it. So recognizing perfection in creation is knowing that everything is in its proper place, in the proper shape, form, and structure, characteristic and attributes that Allah has placed it there. All you're doing is you're trying to understand that. You're not trying to change that. And the same thing goes for you. All you're doing is trying to understand this body. Instead of saying, oh, the body needs to be improved, right? If I had an extra finger on each hand, I might be able to type faster on my keyboard. So that's a deficiency I need to improve on. No, that's just stupidity. Recognize you've been given 5 fingers. This is the perfection Allah has created. He's given you 5 fingers. Leave it at that. Just use the tools that He's given you. All right. The only thing you can change is yourself internally, because yourself, as He says, is like a mirror made of iron. It can get rusted. It can get broken. It can get damaged. So it will need to be cleaned. It will need to be recast. It will need to be polished. That's what you can change. You can't change everything else. If you try to change everything else, you're going to mess it up. And that's what they're doing. It's more than apparent from their actions. The more they try to change things, the worse they make it. They just ruin it. They create a monstrosity out of things. So the imperfection in our personalities, that's something we can change. As far as perfection in creation, we can't change that to make it any better. We can't make anything better like using that Botox, right? So they're going to use that to try and make it better. What happens after that? It's a complete disaster. Gender transformations and whatever, all these things that they implement. trying to put computer chips in the head so that they can think better, become smarter. They actually become more stupider because the brain is not the intellect. The moment you rely on something else to do the intellection for you, you incapacitate yourself. And this is the resultant of people in the world today because they're completely reliant on technology. Oh, I can just look it up on my phone. I don't have to memorize it. But what happens when that thing doesn't work? Because it's not eternal. It's an object with a lifeline, right? It's gonna break. It's gonna go. What do you do then? How are you gonna survive? People get stuck going hiking. They get lost. A lot of them, they can't survive because they don't know the basic aspects of survival. They're completely reliant on technology. In terms of physical disabilities, what might appear as a physical disability to you is not necessarily a disability on the other person, in that Allah has given them that and He has created them in perfection of what He wants them to have. So He may have created somebody, let's say, without legs, but that in itself is a test on that individual, and He compensates them in other aspects. And in a lot of those instances, a lot of people don't actually recognize how He is compensating them, how He's helping them out. So we think that it is something of an evil. See, this is how they will perceive it. They'll perceive it as something of an evil aspect. Something, oh no, it's a big tragedy that occurred to you. But in that tragedy, if you think about it, there is some recompense that comes with that. In that, if He did not give you in this world, He will give you in the other world. He will compensate you in the other world. You see, so you had a difficulty because you had a physical disability, but He has increased you maybe in your intellective ability or your emotive ability. See, a lot of people in that aspect, they recognize the deficiency that they have, that they're not able to partake in the world like other people who are in normalcy, and it humbles them. And that's a beautiful thing, because those who have don't recognize the gifts that they have. That's what He's saying. People are not grateful. They have legs, they have arms, they have eyes, they have all these things, but they're not grateful. When it's not there, that's when you're like, you really humble yourself. And that's where you really appreciate it. Does that answer the question? And you're right, yes, Allah blesses them with other superiorities. Allah gives them other aspects, other avenues. So in the second instance where He says all-knowing, Allah's knowledge encompasses all things. This is the understanding, the sixth article of faith, the sixth tenet. His power, His qudra, in the good and in the bad, because He has all knowledge of everything. There are things you might calculate and estimate and think it's right for you, but He's saying, no, it's wrong for you. Because you haven't seen what He is able to see. Right? And the other thing, it works in reverse as well. Because it includes not just the causes to the effects and the outcomes that you can calculate in the outward sense, but it also includes all the conditions, all the variables, the unseen aspects. He has knowledge of all those things. And the most important of all, He has knowledge of time. Time is something that human beings cannot calculate. You can't calculate time. You can calculate what the clock is saying. You can quantify that. That's known as horology. Measurements of breaking down the motion of time in terms of counting it. But time itself, you cannot have knowledge of, because you don't know which direction it's going in. You don't know how far it's going. You don't know where it came from and where it's headed to. It is independent of you. You're dependent on time. Time is something that Allah has full control of. And so because He has control of time, He has control of everything occurring in time. And His knowledge is all encompassing, and it's important that we recognize that, because recognizing His omnipotence and His all-knowing and His His divine presence puts our own intellectives in perspective. What is our limitation? See, this is why He's telling you this. Understand these principles, because they will help you understand your boundaries and limitations. Certain aspects you just do not cross. The third point on that ties in the rest. أن تعلم أن لطفه ورحمته وعنايته متعلقة بالأشياء كلها. Know that it's important that you know that His grace, His kindness, His providence, mercy, His care and attention is always engaged in all things. Always. He didn't just create and put the rules and then leave creation to do whatever it wants to do. He is actively engaged in every unfolding moment of every creature's unfolding. And this is what the scholars say, that Allah, it's like Allah is in every moment, He is deconstructing the cosmos and reconstructing it back again. Every moment He's doing that. We don't perceive it. We don't see it. It's like traditional film where they would take snapshots on the film reel, and then that reel is run at a speed that it has the same frequency as our eyes can relate to. And so it looks like the pictures are moving, but they're actually still images. And so sometimes that film would stop halfway and you would see the gap between two images taking place. So if everything was to just stop in an instant, this is how you would see the world. There's a disconnect between one moment and another. It's a complex thing to really wrap your head around, like that story of Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj when he was teaching one of his students in the desert, and he took sand and he blew it. And there was just fine particles in the air, and he said, if the veil was to be lifted from your eyes, you would see the world like this. And that's known in physics as the quantum field theory. Everything is particles. Who's holding them together? See, they theorize that they theorize something is holding them together. They call it dark matter or neutrinos or whatever it is they theorize. I don't want to know. I'm not really sure exactly where the theories have ended up in, because they're always changing, right? They're saying that there is dark energy or dark matter that's holding everything together. But we look at it and say, no, there's someone holding it together, right? This is what he means. Allah's care is fully engaged. He is the one who is constantly guiding creation along. He is Rabb, and it's His Rububiyyah. He's constantly nurturing everything along. That's what he means in that ayah. He's saying there that Inna hadaynahu sabila. We are the ones who guide. We guide them along the way. Imma shakiran wa imma kafura. Whether they're grateful or they're ungrateful. He's the one who takes them along. And it's an astounding thing. This is His mercy, His kindness, His grace. Like I said, all these atheists, when they make their claims and everything, they get into their debauchery and their decadence and their blatant manifestation of blasphemy and kufr. And the kind of disgusting things that they get into. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feeds them. They still get food. They still survive. They find a means to medical care when they get hurt, when they get injured, when they get diseased. Allah still gives them providence. It's His mercy. وَأَنَّهَا لَا نِهَايَةَ لَهَا. It's never ending. There is no end to that care and providence that He gives. He's fully engaged all the time. لِمَا تَرَى في النبات والحيوان والمعادن من سعة القدرة وحسن الصور والألوان. You will see this. You see this in the plants, in the flora, in the animals. Look at nature. You see this in the minerals. The power that is displayed in creating all these beautiful forms and colors. Who does that? He's not just creating something functional. He's not creating machines. See, He's created something that's so organic, so beautiful, and it serves a purpose. That's something that humans cannot conceive. You make something, you actually make it to serve a function, And then you try to make the design and embellish it, paint it, give it some nice color, maybe a little bit like this. You actually don't conceive of something that you can make that's both beautiful in aspects, and its beauty is unmatched, and its functionality is efficient. We can't do that. Who does that? It's God. He's the only one who can conceive of that. لأنها مفتاح معرفة الصفات الإلهية وهو علم شريف. See, knowing all these things is the key to knowing the divine attributes. And this is an honorable knowledge. وذلك معرفة عجائب صنائع الإلهية ومعرفة عظم الله سبحانه وتعالى وقدرته. And it is the knowledge of the wonders of God's creation and the knowledge of His majesty and His power. وَهُوَ مُخْتَصِرٌ مَعْرِفَةُ الْقَلْبِ. And it is abridged in the knowledge of the heart. All that, as the macrocosm, is abridged, is summarized in the microcosm of the heart. وَهُوَ عِلْمٌ شَرِيف. And it is a noble knowledge. إِذَا هُوَ مَعْرِفَةُ صَنَائِعَ الْإِلَهِيَّةِ. It is knowledge that helps you understand the divine artifacts. And the heart is a divine artifact. It's not a mundane object that Allah created. It's not a stone. It's not a pebble. It's a divine artifact. It's got divine attributions to it. Because if Allah is all merciful, then the heart can also show mercy. If Allah is all truthful, then the heart can also speak the truth. If Allah is the ultimate creator, the heart also has some creativity. We have some divine attributes in us. We're not saying these are not godly. We're not doing an anthropomorphic analogy. We're saying that Allah has given us some of His attributes that we can bring into the world. We can show kindness. We can show mercy. We can be benevolent to others. We can love. We can enjoin each other. You see, we can take care of His creation. We can cultivate the land. We can allow, nurture things to grow. These are all attributes that Allah has given us. And this is why the heart is a divine artifact. It's not a mundane artifact. We're not saying the heart is divine in godliness. It's divine in its attributes. لأن النفس كالفرس والعقل كالراكب وجماعهما الفارس. Understand here what he's giving as an analogy. He's saying that the soul is like the horse, and the mind, the aql, is like the rider. And together they're like the knight. And this is the battlefield, this world. This is where you have to struggle. And the knight is in chess. If you guys have played chess or chess, most chess players, they find that the knight is the most powerful piece on the board. Some say it's the bishop, but even I agree, the knight is actually the most powerful. And beginners think that the queen is the most powerful, but actually the queen is the most vulnerable, because the opponent is always going to try and take out the queen first. But no one really tries to take out the knight. And the advantage that the knight has is that his moves are unpredictable. And he is not overcome by obstacles. He can jump over obstacles. So he really is the most powerful on the board. So this is the analogy. Be like the knight in this battlefield, on this chessboard. Be flexible. Find a means that will help you move forward. Don't get stuck. Don't be rigid. Be creative in that aspect. The soul is the horse. The aql is the rider. Together they are the knight. You are the king. Push them, guide them, tell them which direction to go into. He gives an example here. He says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفُ نَفْسَهُ. And whosoever does not know himself, وَهُوَ يَدَّعِي مَعْرِفَةُ غَيْرِ. But then he claims to know everyone else. These are the foolish people. They haven't fixed themselves, but they're expert at pointing fingers. Oh, so-and-so, he does like this and like that. Oh, so-and-so, he's got this thing in his heart, he's got envy. So-and-so, he's not fixed himself, but so-and-so, he knows very well about so-and-so. He says, فَهُوَ كَالرِّجْلُ الْمُفْلِسُ. He's like a bankrupt individual, somebody who's bankrupt. He's lost all his wealth. But الَّذِي لَيْسَ لَهُ الطَّعَامُ لِنَفْسِهِ. He doesn't have food for himself. وَهُوَ يَدَّعِي أَنَّهُ يُقَوِّتُ فُقَرَاءُ الْمَدِينَةِ. But he's out there claiming that he's feeding the poor people of the city. He doesn't have food for himself, but he claims to be the one who is feeding everybody else. This is the, if you don't know yourself and you haven't fixed yourself and you haven't rectified your problems and your issues and the diseases in your heart, but you think you're capable to go out there and pass judgment on others, this is the similitude. It's like the one who doesn't have food for himself, but he's out there claiming to be feeding everybody else. Is there any question till there? Last section now, and we're done with the book. This is his conclusion now. Any questions? The soul, repeat the analogy of the soul as a night. Oh, not night as in the night and day. Night as in with the K. Like the dark night. The night piece, the chess piece. So he's saying the soul is a horse, is like a horse. The aql is like the rider. It's the rider that guides the horse. So it's the aql that guides the soul. If the soul is allowed to go in its own volition, it's going to go else wherever it wants to go. The rider is the one who controls the beast. And he says together they are like the knight. And the knight is the most powerful piece on the chessboard. So if this world is your chessboard, this is where you're going to struggle to overcome the difficulties and the obstacles in this world. Be the knight. Don't be the bishop, because the bishop's moves are always predictable. Don't be the queen, because the queen might have a lot of avenues at her disposal, but she's the most vulnerable. Don't be the king, because you're not sent here to rule. The king is the weakest, because if he dies, everything dies. Don't be a pawn, because you will be controlled by others instead of you controlling yourself. So if you don't philosophize, someone else will philosophize for you. So don't be a pawn. Don't be the rook, because you're fixed in your position. You can only go in one direction. And if that direction is blocked, you can't go anywhere. So he's saying, be like the knight. He's the most flexible. He's able to move around. He's able to overcome obstacles. He's brave. He's courageous. Be like that. Does that make sense? Any other question? Okay, so this is his conclusion then. إذا عرفت هذا العز والشرف والكمال والجمال والجلال. So if you know this glory, if you come to understand this glory, this honor, this perfection, this beauty, this majesty of Allah that He has created you with. بعد أن عرفت جوهر القلب أنه جوهر عزيز. After you have understood that the essence of the heart is indeed a magnificent essence, a precious essence. Understand then that قَدْ وُهِبَ لَكَ, it was given to you, وَبَعْدَ ذَلِكَ خَفِيٌّ عَنْكَ, after which it was hidden from you. Why? So that you can seek it, so you can unlock it, so you can experience it, so you can understand and really fully realize it. فَإِن لَمْ تَطْلُبْهُ وَغَفَلَتْ عَنْهُ وَضَيْعَتُهُ. If you don't seek it out, if you neglect it, if you lose it, if you forget it, كَانَ ذَلِكَ حَسْرَةً عَظِيمَةً عَلَيْكَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. It is going to be of something of a great tragedy and a great loss upon you on يوم القيامة. فَاجْتَهِدْ فِي طَلَبِهِ. So struggle in knowing, in seeking it out. وَاتْرُكْ أَشْغَالَ الدُّنْيَا كُلَّهَا. And leave the preoccupations of this world. Leave all the preoccupations of this world. وَكُلُّ شَرَفٍ لَمْ يَظْهَرُ فِي الدُّنْيَا. And any honor that does not manifest in this world. If you thought that something did not work out for you in this world, don't worry about it. Don't get transfixed on it. You worked hard, you did not get that promotion because your boss was just mean. Don't get fixated on that, because what's going to happen, you're going to manifest hatred in your heart. You're going to start plotting and planning. You're going to start doing what he was doing to you. So what did you achieve other than to lower yourself to his level and end up diseasing your heart? Because that's what hatred will do. That's what all the plotting and planning is going to do, right? You invested a lot of money, you built, you got a nice product, you invented something, whatever. You hoped that it will give you a huge return, and then it didn't. All your investment sunk. You lost it all. Don't get transfixed on that, because what's going to happen? You're going to end up desiring, coveting. You're going to get lustrous and greedy. You're going to get miserly after that. You're going to end up getting obsessed with trying to recover that investment and to double that what you all and to cover up all the extra effort that you had to make. Your entire focus will be shifted in that direction or the other direction. If something missed you, it missed you. It wasn't meant for you. Accept it. If the honor did not get bestowed upon you in this world, don't worry about it. Because if you get transfixed on that, your mental capacity is going to wear out. You will be constantly stressed about it. Why do you want to stress about it? That's not your purpose of being. You're not sent here to worry about these things. You were sent here to cultivate your heart, your soul. Focus on that. Return your gaze to that. Something didn't work out, no problem. Find another means. Look towards another pursuit. Pick up something else. Learn a new skill. Learn a new language. Migrate, look for new opportunities. Allah has put the sabab everywhere. There are means to everything that you want to achieve. Find what works for you. If something doesn't work, no problem, it didn't work out, move on. Don't get transfixed. Don't get hung up on the desires and the angers and the turmoils and the ups and downs of this world. فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ فَرِحٌ بِلَا غَمٌّ. Because for him, in the akhirah, if you abandon the stuff of this world and you try not to pursue all these recognitions and honors and all these stuff of this world, for him in the akhirah, there will be joy without any grief. وَبَقَاءٌ بِلَا فَنَاءٍ. There will be longevity without any annihilation. وَقُدْرَةٌ بِلَا عَجْزٌ. And power without any incapacity. وَمَعْرِفَةُ بِلَا جَهْلٌ. And understanding without any ignorance. وَجَمَالٌ وَجَلَالٌ عَظِيمَانِ. And great majesty and great beauty. وَأَمَّا الْيَوْمِ. As for this world today, فَلَيْسَ شَيْءٌ أَعْجَزُ مِنْهُ. The heart is at its lowest of the low. لأنه مسكين ناقص. It's miskin. It's been neglected. It's impoverished. It's been left asunder. You didn't take care of it. You're not looking towards it. It's being depleted. This is the reality of the state of people today. وَإِنَّمَا الشَّرَفُ غَدًا. Honor is going to come tomorrow. In the akhirah, that's where you will get your honor. إذا طرح من هذه الكيمياء على جوهر قلبه. If he casts this alchemy onto the essence of his heart, حتى يخلص منه الشبه البهائم. Until he has completely rid himself of the likeness of these bestial qualities, then you will get that honor. The true honor that you're looking for. Then you will get it. If you don't get it in this world, you will definitely get it in the akhirah. So until you have cleansed yourself completely, rid yourself of these bestial qualities, وَيَبْلُغَ دَرَجَةَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. And he attains the rank, the degree of the angels. However, فَإِنْ رَجَعَ إِلَى شَهَوَاتِ الدُّنْيَا. If he returns then to the desires of the world, فَضَلَتْ عَلَيْهِ الْبَهَائِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. The beasts are going to be given superiority over him on Yawm al-Qiyamah. The beasts will be given a higher rank than you if you return to the desires of the world. لأنها تصير إلى التراب. They are just going to return to dust. But the human being, وَيَبْقَى هُوَ فِي الْعَذَابِ. For him, there's going to be punishment. Why? Because the beast has served its purpose. That's what it was created for. It was created to eat. It was created to copulate. It was created to reproduce. It was created to fight with each other. They have a purpose and a role to fulfill. You might not be able to comprehend that a lion killing 10 antelopes is actually helping the ecosystem. It's serving its purpose. They're doing what they were meant to do. What did you do? You lowered yourself to that exemplification instead of doing what you were supposed to do. So the beasts will return into the world, into dust. They will be returning to whatever they were created from. As for you, the punishment is what's awaiting. نعوذ بالله من ذلك. We seek refuge from that in Allah. ونستجير به, and we seek His protection. وهو نعم المولى ونعم النصير. He is the great master and the great granter of victory. والحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.